Biogeography. What lives where? We already talked about this some back with evolution. But again, this is a study of the geographic distribution of types of living things. And of course, the goal is to find patterns and figure out why. Why do we see different things in different places? No surprise, look around. Different climate. Some things like it hot, some like it cold. Some like dry, some like wet. So you have the obvious modern day factors that affect what will live where. But in addition, as Darwin and Wallace noticed, when you get to different parts of the world with similar climates and other abiotic factors, you still get different types of things in these different parts of the world. And to understand those, we need to think about the history. Over time, we have a variety of changes in geology, in climate. Continent collisions can build up mountains. Continents moving around to different climates. We get ice ages, conditions colder, glaciers melt, things get warmer. All these factors are contributing to different types of things in different places. So for example, we talked about the taiga, boreal forest. Okay, just see that. You can, from Boiling Springs, you can either drive north up to about Maine or so, and you can see taiga there. Or you could go up the mountains to the top of our highest peaks here in the Appalachians. And you can see taiga-type forest there as well. How did the taiga trees get here? There's a big gap between them and the others, and in fact, somewhat different types that we see here, the tops of the Appalachians versus on up to Maine or Canada or the like. Well, when we have the glaciers, glacier pushes south, colder conditions, the taiga trees are growing further south. Glaciers made it all the way to northern Pennsylvania, about to the Ohio River. And so right in front of the glacier, you're going to get tundra because it's so cold. And then taiga forest would have occurred, say, around here. As glaciers melt, taiga retreats, but also up the mountains as well as back north. And so the taiga plants were able to reach the mountain areas, and now they're isolated in this patch as a result of the history. Again, very important as evidence of evolution. What you find where relates to what was able to get someplace and then what has happened evolutionarily in that population since then. Again, Darwin and Wallace, early observers. Wallace especially focused on this. And so based on his knowledge of what lived where, again, he was from England, but then did extensive study what types of creatures he could find in what's now Indonesia. And so Wallace recognized 6 major land divisions. Palearctic, from Paleo Old, so this is Old World Arctic, the northern parts of the Old World, so most of Europe, Asia, northernmost Africa. Nearctic, so new, that's going to be northern part of North America. Neotropical, the tropical parts of the New World, so Central America, Northern South America, Caribbean. Ethiopian, Central and South Africa, knows to be different. Oriental, South Asia has unique things in there relative to other parts of the world. And then Australian, from New Guinea through Australia, very distinctive life there. Major barriers such as oceans and deserts separate these different regions from each other and helps make it hard for different types of life to move back and forth. And as usual, we can mess things up. We tend to move things around, whether it's deliberately. Hey, I'd like to have some pretty plants in my yard. Let's get flowers from all parts of the world and stick them here. Or accidental. Hey, what's that bug in the flower? Something else came from that other part of the world too. So with that, we are moving things around, and different parts of the world are looking more similar. And these invasive species can also pose problems for native, not just there are now pigeons found all around the world, but having pigeons can compete with birds that were native there and lead to declines in those. So things like cats and rats and starlings, pigeons, honeybees, clover, dandelions, these are now found all over the world, even though all of these particular examples are things that belong in Europe and similar parts of the old world. Now, not everything's coming from there. There are plenty of things from North America, and even more complex things. So like the fire ants, major nuisance accidentally introduced from South America, along with planting plants. Plants have ants, and they've spread and taken over the southeast, and major problem, say, for ground nesting birds and many other species. But fire ants are now in many other warm parts of the world. Turns out most of those other places that are stuck with fire ants didn't get them from South America. They got them from us in the US. So invasives can spread beyond from one spot to another, as well as from their original source. Nearctic and Palearctic have a good deal of similarity. The types of things found here in temperate to cool parts of North America are typically relatively similar to those in Europe and Asia. This reflects the fact that between Alaska and Siberia has been a land bridge more often than ocean for much, actually, since dinosaurs were still around. Now, of course, it's ocean today, and about 5 million years ago is when ocean first flooded through there, and then it's been back and forth as glaciers have expanded and retreated. So any types of creatures that have been able to move back and forth across that are found on both sides. Neotropical, in contrast, is very distinctive. South America was an island continent for a large chunk of time. Again, all the way back into dinosaur time, you had splitting so that South America, it was still connected to Antarctica, and Antarctica on the other side to Australia. But roughly 70, 80 million years back, we had the split between South America and Africa. And so the warmer part of South America was isolated. And then on the order of about 40 to 35 million is when you had South America split away from Antarctica. No more ability for things to go back and forth with Australia. And as an isolated island, you had a number of unique types of creatures evolving in there. Africa, likewise, was a separate island for some time, as was India. Australia today is still and has very distinctive types of things living there. Ethiopian is separated from the Palearctic by the Sahara. There's a particular diversity of large mammals there, perhaps in part Africa being where humans first evolved. The big mammals had a chance to learn to watch out for these funny two-legged things running around. Now, the highest diversity of vertebrates is in the neotropics rather than there, but in terms of big animals, we have quite the diversity down there. Oriental, somewhat fewer endemics. After all, it does connect fairly extensively with the Palearctic, but also this is partly a amount of study. As folks are looking more closely at some of the smaller things, increasingly recognizing that there are a lot of things unique to the South and East Asia region. Again, you have desert in Arabia helping separate it from the Ethiopian realm, and the Himalayas separating it from the Palearctic. Australian, again, roughly 40, 45 million up to upper 30s is when Australia is starting to separate from Antarctica. And since then it has been an island. And placental mammals had not reached Australia, not counting, you would start to get whales around then, but land placental mammals had not particularly reached there. And so there are only very few native ones even today. You have bats. Well, yeah, bats can fly, so not too surprising. And also some rodents, some rats, have been able to make it along the islands between South Asia and Australia and develop into forms there. So most of the mammals land for Australia are marsupials, at least the native ones. We've got plenty of invasives now. And a couple of monotremes, egg-laying platypus and echidna. Birds, plants, insects, snails, clams, all sorts of land and freshwater things in Australia are quite unique, different from other parts of the world. So here's a map version of Wallace's boundaries. Neotropics, Nearctic, Palearctic, Ethiopian, Oriental, Australian. Now, it depends on what you're looking at. Wallace focused quite a lot on birds and insects. Those can generally fly. They will have different patterns than, say, lizards or frogs. Freshwater, also. There are different connections in freshwater versus land, and so you have quite a variety of different possible patterns, different ways you can draw the lines.